Have you ever wondered, what exactly would I do and how would I go about starting and growing a successful business coaching practice? That's what we're discussing on this episode of the Business Coaching Success Podcast. Let's jump in. BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to six figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. Hey there, BJ O'Neill here. Glad to be with you. We are discussing specifically exactly how to start, not just to start, but how to start a successful business coaching practice. And it comes on a lot of questions. And by the way, I do approach this subject several times throughout the year on this podcast. And the reason why I don't just retain or go back and grab an older episode and just do a refresh is that things change. You know, there's new strategy sometimes, there's new technology sometimes. Plus, I want to be able to, for those that are searching, make it easy to find a new episode, and or maybe you've listened to one of the episodes or video trainings that we do, whether it's the podcast version, audio only, or video on YouTube. But maybe you need to hear it again. It depends, right? We're all in a different spot. So I'm going to give you some things to consider, to think about. This episode likely is going to be a little bit longer than normal by design, because I don't want to cut any corners, and you're going to leave here with some meat, with some solid content to where you have some choices to make. If you truly are considering starting a successful business coaching practice as a Christian business coach. Now, just for context, that is exactly who I talk to. That's the audience, is those that are believers, that are of faith, and they're looking to make a significant impact on the life of business owners and helping them to grow profitability in their business. At the same time, you get to build a successful business coaching practice for yourself and achieve your dreams, whatever that looks like. Coaching is one of those things where it's very flexible. We have coaches on our team and our network. We have more than between 65 and 70-ish coaches all over across the country. Some still have full-time jobs. Some are part-time retired. Some are real estate agents or bankers or CPAs and financial planners. Some are full-time in coaching. So it gives you the ability to be 100% like, what do you want, right? And that's the beautiful part. You can have one or two clients, or you can have 10 to 15 clients. You can earn an additional, $30,000 in the year, or you can earn $300,000 a year, and not overnight, but you certainly have a lot of decisions to make and flexibility. And the cool thing is you can start with a couple of clients and, figure it out as to what do I want to do with my contribution as a strategist? So that is step one, strategy. And yes, it is business coaching, but at the end of the day, we are strategically, at least of what I coach and what I teach and preach, we are strategically helping business owners to understand how to be able to grow their businesses one strategy at a time and one step at a time. And we use a system inside our community, but regardless of that right now, is that there are three areas that you do have to focus on. And this is where, for you as a coach, this is where for you as a strategist, that you do have to build a plan in order to draw success, okay? So I'm going to break some of these down. I'm going to try to keep it, as high level to not get too weedy, but I am going to give you enough meat to at least draw context to understand what we're talking about, so you can decide, hey, I see this as a potential path of being able to achieve the goals and dreams that I have for myself and what God has in store for you as well, okay? So we start there with strategy. We can't just go and do things tactically. We have to have a strategic plan in several different areas, okay? The first one is, where am I going to get leads and prospects? Like any business on the planet, doesn't matter what kind of business it is, client acquisition, the individual and the business owner, and certainly the business coach, because as a coach in growing a practice, you are also a business owner, okay? What's that plan going to look like when it comes to client acquisition? Now, personally, I like to couch it like this. Where am I going to spend my time? Where am I going to spend my energy in adding value solving problems, building solid, authentic relationships that matter. Okay? The first, or maybe not the first, but one of those, because we're going to talk about strategy now on what are the things that I need to do to build for client acquisition. In other words, connecting to leads and prospects. So there's some things to think about and some decisions to make as to what strategies that you want to do to make that happen. Beyond that, though, or in addition to, you have to have a mindset is that I'm constantly going to be in client acquisition mode, meaning I'm going to always expand my network. So it's not just about I need to find clients. The more people that you get to know, the more people to understand what you do and how you do it, and you expand that over time. I call it, it's the 1% daily gains, and you do this 1% at a time over a year's time, you're 365% better off than you were a year ago. Those who avoid building their network, it's just going to be more difficult. Doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that you're going to be much more difficult. I'll give you an example. When I say that all the time, expanding your network. Over the past weekend, my family and I, we joined a couple of other families from our church and went to a resort a few hours away from where we live, and had a great time connecting with folks, and just our kids were playing together, and we had a good time. But we ended up running into a couple of other couples that go to our church as well, which is kind of ironic. I've never met this individual before. I've seen him from a distance and recognized him visually. Didn't know what he did. Well, guess what? We ended up having some commonalities, and we connected. We talked about our professions. He talked about his. I talked about mine. And they said, hey, listen, when we get back home, let's connect. Let's go to lunch. Would love to be able to continue to get to know you. And who knows how we might be able to help one another. Well, that's a version, even on vacation or, having a weekend of vacay. I expanded my network of somebody who's really that, not that far removed from me. And when you're always your mindset is open, and you're always thinking and considering, who do I need to know? You have both the organic, like over the weekend, that was an organic way. And then you're going to have a much more specific, where strategically I am very purposeful and very intentional about growing a strong business coaching network. Because the more people that you do, that know what you do and understand even bigger what you do, your neighbors, your family, your dentist, your banker, your attorney, your dog groomer. Think about that. Keep going level. The places that you visit the most, the restaurants you go to, the manager of that restaurant. When they all understand what you do, it significantly, and we're not even talking about the strategies yet, but when everybody around you understands what you do, it gives you the opportunity to meet and to connect with a lot of people. Yesterday, or over the last, yesterday alone, I had two individuals randomly to reach out to me and say, hey, I'm sending somebody to you. I think that I think you'd be a perfect fit for what you do. They're looking to make a career change and whatnot. Why? Because of the constant desire I have to connect with other people, and you will organically get opportunity like that will return its favor. If I shut that down and I stop connecting with people over time, that's not going to continue. So you want to do that. All right. So for time, I want to move on, right? So we're talking about leads and prospects, and I was long-winded there, but too many coaches I find don't spend enough time building their network. As it says, your net worth is in your network, or something like that. Sometimes I get that backwards. But there are a number of strategies that you can use to get leads and to get prospects, okay? Certainly, you can go the paid route. I don't encourage that in the beginning if you don't understand how to utilize things like Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But certainly, you can use a paid model to be able to do that. If you're going to do that, and if you don't understand it, you're going to have to hire an agency to do it. But it's certainly there. It's usually best for those who understand or they've been coaching for a while, because you can burn through a lot of cash quickly. So while it's available, I typically say, hey, probably not the best place to start. You certainly want to, get some clients, get some income coming in before you go down that path. Okay. The second is going to be, there's things like doing miniature workshops where you get a few people in a room. You're going to teach them some content. Being able to create joint venture partnerships. Those who have paying business clients, CPAs, financial planners, business brokers, potentially media companies. Maybe you know somebody in your area who works at the radio station or the television station, or they own a digital marketing agency. There's great ways that you can collaborate to say, hey, let's work together to build relationship with one another. I'm going to help you grow your business. You're going to help me grow my business, and so on. By far, an extension of building your network is participating in networking events. It could be the Chamber of Commerce. It could be the BNI groups. If you're not familiar with BNI, it's one of the biggest and largest international groups where the whole purpose is to swap leads and to help each other grow. But there's a number of different relationships that you can build through all kinds of different networking in your local market. But regardless of what you choose, and by the way, certainly using things like LinkedIn. If some of you probably are familiar with the Sales Navigator, it's an extra charge, but it allows you to be able to send messages to those that are not in your network. So there's software that you can use to do that. There's a number of things. Here's the point, is that you got to choose a couple of different lanes. In other words, you got to choose a couple of different strategies that you're going to basically master. So perhaps, and if you're asking, well, which one is the best? Well, sometimes that depends upon your skill sets, but just on the surface, workshops, networking, and joint ventures. And if you got really good at all three of those, I'm telling you, you will never, ever, ever, over time, want for clients if done correctly. But what happens is a lot of coaches do it incorrectly, meaning they don't have a solid plan. They're kind of bouncing all over the place. They do it willy-nilly. And what willy-nilly means, if I'm going to do networking, I might go to a networking event this week or I might not, right? You got to show up. You got to participate, all right? And so you would want to create a plan. You would want to create a process. Now, if I was just starting out today, this is exactly what I would do. One, I am going to be a networking machine and get to know as many people in my community as humanly possible. Number two, I'm 100% going to do the workshop model at some level, or I may do it in a couple of different levels. I built my businesses over 20 years doing the workshop style, creating masterminds, creating groups of people, even monthly gatherings. And for me, I did monthly gatherings for Christian business owners. It's a great way to showcase your expertise, help them to see things that they can't, and so on. But you have to choose for yourself. And then I'm probably going to blend them. As I'm networking, my call to action is going to be, hey, listen, I'm doing a workshop coming up in another week or two. I'd love to invite you. We're going to be able to do this, whatever the content's going to be there. Like, so all of my activity, truly, as I'm getting connected with people for the very first time, at some levels, at some point, I'm going to make an invitation to come to an event, and a workshop, or a group that I'm going to do, right? And I'm going to do that rinse and repeat, and I'm probably going to keep that model going for a solid 6 to 12 months in the very beginning. Then, over time, as I get clients, as I'm helping clients, as I'm educating them, I'm going to begin to ask for referrals from those clients. Bigger point is, one, you must have a strategy, meaning if I'm going to network, I'm going to go to 1 to 2 events per week at worst case, and I'm going to go every single week. You cannot just bounce in and bounce out. If I'm going to do workshops, I'm going to schedule a minimum of 1 per month, and I'm going to do it for 6 to 12 months without fail, outside of being on vacation or something like that. What I'm not going to do is just plan one, see how it goes, wait 2 or 3 months. That's going to kill your momentum. You don't want to do it that way. If I'm going to do joint ventures as well, I'm not just going to have one. I'm probably going to have up to 5. A couple of CPAs, a couple of financial planners, maybe a business broker, who knows? And then I'm going to blend and have a combination of all that. Now, you may hear all that and go, man, that's a lot. Well, I know it's a mouthful because I'm telling you everything. The bigger point is strategy, system, process, and then it's a journey. You're going to work through all of this over time. Adjust what's not working. Get rid of what's not working. Adopt the new things as you get to know them. But you've got to connect with people, invite them to a workshop in this case, and be able to really, again, if you're going to use the workshop model. Some people don't need to do that. Some people are very good at being able to build a relationship and make an invitation to go to the next step, which is the conversion process. So prayerfully, if you get anything else, you just got to understand I got to have a plan for leads and prospects. And one last thing, you must have a solid message. We like to call them elevator pitches. Call it whatever you want. But you need to have a specific way. When you introduce yourself, right? Just like I did to my friend now that I met at a resort that happens to go to my church, where we were several hours away. You need to be prepared in those moments. How do you say what you do? It needs to be very wordsmithed. You need to have it down clear so that someone says, wow, that's very interesting. Tell me more. That's what you're wanting to do, right? And you're certainly going to adjust that depending upon the audience, the room, the situation that you're in. But you need to have your words down, your elevator pitch down, so that you bump into somebody at Starbucks, the gas station, or you're at a networking event. You are prepared. You are ready. And it's not cheesy. It's really solid. And you want to set yourself up as a strategist. The second leg is the conversion process. You must have a process in place where you're going to invite a prospect to some type of situation where you're going to show them something, and I'm going to explain what that something means, to where they're going to go, you know what? You can help me grow my business. Like, that's got to happen. It could be a PowerPoint slide. It could be an assessment tool. It could be some kind of interesting interactive activity or whatever, to where they begin to see that you hold the keys to help them go to the next step, to go, I need you to help me move forward, okay? And now, back in the day, I would do this with a PowerPoint slide. And we would talk about what strategy looks like. We would talk about what business growth looks like. We would talk about from where they are, from what they're trying to achieve. All these things. And then, we're going to make a request to be able to go to say, hey, I think I can probably help you. Let's talk about what it looks like to work together. And so there's a number of ways to do this. What we do in our, I will tell you this, what we do in our current Done For You system is we have an entire assessment that's utilizing some very high profile software where we walk business owners that are still in the prospect phase and show them how we can increase profitability in their business based upon their current size of their business, their top line revenues, their gross and their net margins. So that's what we use today. I haven't always used that, but that's what we use today. And it's a great visual representation. It helps them to be able to understand, where they are, what they need to do to be able to grow from one strategy on top of another strategy. We call it the compound effect of profit acceleration. That's what we're currently doing today. You'll have to choose though. Are you going to use a system? Are you going to use a process? Are you going to create something for yourself? You got to have something, because I will tell you, if you don't have some type of apparatus that recognizes and shows them based upon where they are today and what they need to do to grow profits in their business. And I will give you a little hat tip here. One of the challenges of business growth is that most businesses in America especially do not have enough profits in their business. This is the reason, I forgot the numbers, but every single week, thousands of businesses are being put up for sale. 90% of them will not sell. Why? One, there's not enough demand in the market was one. Two, the ones that are for sale or that would look attractive don't really have enough profit in the business to be able to get the valuation that they need. And if you've ever watched Shark Tank, this is the huge conversation where the business owner believes that their business is worth X, and the sharks are like, nope, it's worth this, and they don't get a deal. Well, that's because it's real. The average profit in America for most businesses is 10%. That's not that amazing. If a business is doing $1 million in annual revenue, it's only $100,000. It's not a lot, and that's the reason why they're not being able to be sold. A lot of baby boomers right now are trying to sell them because that is their 401k. They've built this business. They've spent 10, 15, 20 years, building it, thinking that they're going to get, X return. Why? Because most businesses are overly focused on their industry and their trade and top line revenues, and they're not focused on profitability. We have a saying in our community, profit feeds the family, revenue feeds the ego. And we see it every day where you've got businesses that are doing, a lot in revenue, but they're not doing a lot in profit, and they go out of business all the time. they're doing, $1 million, 5 million, 10 million. That doesn't matter if the business isn't growing profitability. So my encouragement would be to you is to find some way that you're going to be able to show them how they can grow profitability in their business to be able to say, hey, I would like to work with you because I think that you could help me grow profits and revenues for that matter inside my business. So that's the conversion part. You must have a plan. You must have a system. You must have a structure that shows them where they are today, what could happen for them tomorrow based upon some type of process. All right. There's a number of them available. Sometimes, I used to create my own. I've stopped doing that because it's too arduous to create things on your own. That's why we now offer a done-for-you solution for business coaches, again, where we provide this entire system and process using software where it's all done and created. It's super fun. It's very visual, very impactful, where we show businesses how they could be earning an additional 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand or more, all just based upon the size of the business. So you must have a process to convert them. You're just not going to convince them, hey, let me help you with the little few things here or there. It's just not going to work, all right? The last leg of the stool, remember I told you 3 things. The last leg is coaching them one strategy at a time and one step at a time. Now, here's a challenge in the coaching community. And I used to do this. I was by far in the middle of this where, number one, I bring a lot of overwhelm to clients accidentally. Why? Well, I'm an ideas guy. So I'm like, oh man, you should do this, you could do this, you could do this, especially when it comes to like marketing. I do enjoy marketing. It's a lot of fun. I get a lot of energy out of helping somebody grow from just a marketing strategy. The problem with that is that it's not helping to actually advance very strategically. So you must have some type of way that you're going to help them grow by focusing on one specific strategy at a time. Because if you don't, what typically happens in a lot of coaching sessions is you have great conversation, but because the conversations from session to session aren't congruent, then you're really not helping the business owner get traction at all. So in most cases, most coaches, will do 2 to 3 sessions per month for an individual business owner. Okay, typically they're about 60 minutes, and you want to have a plan in that coaching session. You want to have an agenda of what you're going to cover. You should be, number one, just having a slight reflection. Hey, just kind of a look back. This is what we worked on last week or last 2 weeks ago or whatever. Just as to bring it all back, we review potentially what the homework was, whatever case may be, and then you're going to go into new content today. The value of a strategist is holding the client accountable. Okay, and I'm going to talk about what you can charge in just a moment. But the value is helping them to hold them accountable. That's what you're there for. 1, they may not know exactly what to do. 2, even if they did they get it done? Think about your own life. I mean, how many days, weeks, and months you look back on the things that you know are important, but you didn't get them done? That's what an accountability partner, that's us as the strategist, that's what we're able to provide for the client. So you got to have some type of tools, systems, structures, whether you create them on your own, whether you purchase some from some white labeling sites or whatever on how to grow profitability in a business, or like again in our case, in our done-for-you system, we have an entire process utilizing our coaching software. We have a coaching portal that helps to go strategy by strategy by strategy to where it's an evolution. We're never really done. And we're looking at things like, how to create uniqueness in the business. That's a strategy. Cost-cutting measures. That's a strategy. Creating compelling offers, bundles. That's a strategy. The sales process. That's a strategy. And we break it down step by step by step to make the process simple. So I want to encourage you, regardless of what you do, you got to make the coaching process simple. You want to make it exciting. You want to let them know that you're there to hold them accountable. You want to give them a structure to be able to follow. And if you don't, it's going to be all over the place, and they likely will not retain you for long, especially when it's just, 3 months, 6 months goes by, and there's just, you've not really gone anywhere. And so you want to avoid that at all cost. Hope that makes sense to you. But you want to be able to help them focus, all right? One strategy at a time, one step at a time. So if I was coaching you today, and we were talking about creating uniqueness in your business, for instance, we're going to get very granular on one step of that overarching process. And we're not going to move to the next step until that one is done. That's how you really do it to get significant traction to grow profits and revenues in the business, okay? Earnings. So the average coach charges around $2,000 per month for one-on-one coaching. You can certainly do one-on-one coaching. You can do group coaching in a number of different ways. You can create a mastermind. You can create, if you were to create a series of videos and modules, you could create an entire, hey, if somebody doesn't want to pay you, $2,000 a month for one-on-one coaching, you could have a downsell offer, if you will, and still be able to, maybe charge $4.99 a month, and you're going to put them through some curriculum that you've created through, some video modules or whatever, some homework or whatnot, or you can do a hybrid of that even. The most popular is certainly the one-on-one scenario, but the range is typically, that a coach charges is $1,000 to $5,000 per month. $2,000 is the average. In most cases, we want to set up, 12-month agreements, because it is going to take time. It's going to take several months before a client's going to start to see results, and you want to set expectations when you do that. And I'll do a separate podcast episode just upon the coaching process alone, because that's another whole conversation all by itself. But you've got to have a process to do it. That's what you charge to do it. So, starting a business coaching practice, you got to have a plan upon where am I going to create my activity, my energy, what I'm going to say, what am I going to invite them to be able to build that relationship where I can show them how I can help them, build their business and grow profits and revenues in the business. And then how am I going to do it? Those are the ways that you have to do it. Whether you create your own content, whether you buy content from somebody else, whether you work with somebody like us, where we give you an entire system to do that, you got to make a choice. I will tell you, at least in my perspective, because I used to create all of my own content and it was tough. It's hard, especially today with what I see oftentimes is, if you look at the 80-20 rule, you've got coaches who spend 80% of their time creating tech, creating tools, creating resources. They are needed and they are necessary. But when you do that, you're removing yourself from spending all the time that you should be in building relationships. Relationships are the bedrock of building a successful business coaching practice, period. So I would just encourage you in some manner is to be able to figure out, okay, how can I reverse the 80-20 and spend 80% of my time building relationships, adding value, building my network, and so on. And certainly that's where someone like us comes in with a network to where we give you all the tools, all the resources so that you're able to do that very thing. I hope this has made sense to you. If you ever have any questions, if I can be of value to you, I would love to be able to do so. And if you are interested, say, hey, I hear you talking about, tools that are done for you. What does that look like? You can go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. There's some information that you can get there that will share exactly what we do and how we can help you. If you even want to chat about it, we should give you a very high-level overview of working with us. If not, you do have to create a process to solve those three areas that I shared with you today. Until next time, take care.